Hey, what's going on guys? Maldiva here, and today I'm going to be bringing you a PvP talent guide for Destruction Warlock and PvP. I just want to apologize for not making videos in a while. A lot of stuff went down with editors and all that, and I was just really upset about the whole situation, so that was my bad for not uploading in a while, but I really want to try to get back on track and bring out some of the more educational content that you guys loved. So, starting off with this, we're going to jump right into the talents. Now, the talents for Warlock right now are pretty cookie cutter. I mean, there is 2 builds that I know about, but the one build is going to be the main build that everybody's going to be playing. So the first build that I'm currently spec'd is the Big Bolt spec. So this is the spec you're going to play pretty much every game, unless there's a game where you fight a team that's not going to let you get bolts off. So first off, flashover. This is going to give you conflag damage, and also the big thing on this is the additional charger backdraft, which is going to reduce the cast time of your Chaos Bolt. The other talents aren't really that great. I mean, Soulfire, not even really worth talking about. And Eradication, it's good if you're getting multiple bolts in a row, but it doesn't really work like that in high level and stuff. So flashover is always going to be the best pick for there. So for 30, I'm really in love with reverse because, I mean, extra haste, you can't argue about that. Faster cast times and all that, shard gen. The other 2, I really haven't tested. I mean, internal combustion looks like it could be kind of interesting for burst, but for my playstyle specifically, I always go for the haste proc. I really like it. And 45, that's pretty much always demon skin. I haven't really been in a situation where I'm going to swap out for Dark Pack because Burning Rush, you would never use that. That's just mainly PvE stuff. For level 60, Cataclysm is always going to be the pick. This ability is just so good, and it's on a different school than your other spells. So if you get locked out on, let's say, Fear and stuff, you can cast this, but if you get locked out on Chaos Bolt, you're going to be locked out on everything. But Cata, just awesome spell. Great for people around the pillar when they're pillar humping. You can get your immolate, and it also does a decent amount of damage too. So very good for teams that are stacked up. 75, Coil is going to be the pick pretty much every game because of Havoc. So you can always double coil as Destro. It's super powerful, and you get the heal, which is nice. You can play Port versus some maybe like melee cleaves, but very rare. I don't really see that happening too often. For the 90, now this is going to be the talent tree where you can change out on some of these talents, depending on if you're getting bolts or not. So Supremacy is going to be the default for the big bolt spec. If you're able to get bolts off, this is just going to net you the huge bolts. Roaring Blaze would be the option, and I'll go over this build after we do the big bolt for a build that if you're not getting too many bolts off and there's a lot of interrupts. So going down to the 100, Dark Soul, this is going to increase the damage of your bolts, so you use this on top of your Infernal, and that's how you get the biggest bolts that you can ever possibly do. The other, I haven't really messed out with the other talents too much, but possibly maybe for another build, the second build that I was talking about, where if you can't get casts off. So now moving on to the PvP talents for the big bolt spec, you're always going to want Focus Chaos. So that's going to give you the bigger bolts, but it just makes it so you can't Havoc your Chaos Bolt. And I like to default Nether Ward now because they have the introduction of the new trinket called Maldict, and you can Nether Ward this and reflect it onto them. So you negate it on yourself, and then you also reflect it onto the enemy. And Demon Armor, this is default for any team that has a melee or anybody that's doing like physical damage where you'll need the armor. But if I fight casters, then I opt out of Demon Armor, and I'll go, let's say, Root Reflect, or maybe even Fisher if I feel like I don't need Root. Maybe if I'm playing with someone that has stuns or really good slows. But my favorite most of the time is going to be the Root, just so I can get bolts off and kind of help peel for my partners and all that. So it'd either be between Fel Fisher and Root. And now, so let's say you're fighting a team where you're going to struggle to get bolts off. They have like a million interrupts, because I've faced that before. Hate to be in that position to where you have to change your spec up for that. But if the time comes, there's a few talents that you can change up to kind of help you in that situation. So I will go stay with Flashover, Reverse as well, Demon Skin, that stays the same, Kata for sure, Coil, and then when you get to the 90, Roaring Blaze. So since you're not going to get any worth, if you feel like you're not going to get any bolts off during your Infernal, there's really not a point to be Supremacy. So you can opt for Roaring Blaze, so you can keep your pet and also have that extra burn damage with Conflag. Sacrifice would do a decent amount of damage, but in this meta where pets are so important for stopping drinks, I would try to play away from Sacrifice, so that's why Roaring Blaze would be the option. And then for the 100 talents, I've usually just stayed Dark Soul because you still get a benefit off of Dark Soul even if you're not bolting. Your spells will just crit, or you have a higher chance to crit, and then your shard runs higher, but it just sucks because you can't really use your shards for anything that impactful. You could maybe Rain of Fire, but Rain of Fire isn't going to do too much. But I've heard people were speccing into like Channel Demon Fire, maybe like Soul Conduit. I don't see it doing value because our problems aren't soul shards, because we're not going to be spending them effectively. So either Channel Demon Fire or still staying off for that Dark Soul. And now if you're speccing out of the big bolts, you probably don't need Focus Chaos, so you can go out of that, pick up Cremation. So Cremation is another one that's going to work well with Roaring Blaze, because that's going to buff out your Conflag damage. And then you can either pick up, depending on if it's melee or not, most likely it probably is, those will be the teams that you're struggling with, unless you're fighting like 2 casters that are doing really well with CSs and stuff, because you'll probably have a Demon Armor for playing this build. So it'll be swap out Focus Chaos for Cremation, and then you can keep Nether Ward for the Maldix, or even opt into going to the Root. So yeah, that is my short little talent guide for the talents that I play in 3s. If you guys have any questions, just feel free to leave a comment down below, and thank you so much. I will see you guys in the next video.